Hi everybody, it's me, the Fedge, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, the Fed, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lesson and Dr. Sasha Lesson.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lesson.
Aloha everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I am Janet Lesson with my Dr. Sasha Lesson. And today we have a very special guest, A.K.Kuykendall, who was born in Albany, but grew up as a military rat at Kaneohe Bay in Hawaii, then later in Jacksonville, North Carolina. He's married to Magdal Kuykendall, mother of 3 sons. He's a graphite trade. His passion, however, is writing conspiracy, espionage, horror, and literature. Influential emotional and social strength of his mother, he has an infectious love for the surface of his literature. His love and respect for women inspires him to write stories featuring strong male protagonists. To keep his literary skills sharp, he is also a poet and an extremely passionate economic, political, and blogger. So, do you have anything to say, Sasha, before we bring on AK?
No, let's just hear what your blog is on whatever's most salient in your head.
So, welcome to our show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Okay, getting a message that our phone is going in and out. Or is it, producer, are we okay? Do we need to call on our home phone?
Let's give it a try and we'll see what happens. Okay.
Yes, so AK, I'm sorry, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and about your Conspirator's Odyssey series of books.
All right, well, you kind of wrapped up in a nutshell. Based on my background, you know, it's pretty much very detailed on my website, on my biography page, you know, how I got to this point here. But about my story itself, I can go into that one real quick. Just
tell our listeners, because they're not seeing the page, so just summarize what you want.
All right, because basically you when you gave me the intro, you actually wrapped it up in a nutshell. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
So, but just to wrap up what you said before, you know, to keep my literary skills sharp, I'm not only a novelist, i.e. a writer of books, but, you know, just to keep my skills sharp, I'm also a poet and extremely passionate economic, political, and social blogger. My mother at one time said that I talk too much, I should be a writer. And I've been doing that ever since I was 10 years old, and now things are starting to move for me. And since things are moving for me in the literary world, I decided to take up my creative passions for being a historian in a sense, and all my musings between all the movies that I've ever seen before. But usually when I'm reading novels, I start to read between the lines of what some of these authors are trying to say to us, and that's where I've come to write the way I write that today. I wouldn't consider myself a conspiracy or a conspiratorial author. Because my loves are espionage, horror, and suspense, and of course conspiratorial novels. So I'm all over the gambit. No one can typecast me out there. But about my work, if you can bear with me. Socrates, the Greek philosopher, taught his students that the pursuit of truth can only begin once they start to question and analyze every belief they have ever held dear. If a certain belief passes the test of evidence, deduction, and logic, I believe it should be kept. If it does not, the belief should not only be discarded, but the thinker must also then question why he was led to believe the erroneous information in the first place, and for what purpose. Not surprisingly, this type of teaching didn't sit well with the ruling elite of Greece. Many political leaders throughout history have sought to sway the masses for reasons both good and bad. Socrates was tried for subversion and for corrupting the youth. He was then forced to take his own life by drinking poison, if we remember our history correctly. It has never been easy to be an independent thinker. Today, our ruling government/media complex does not kill people for pursuing the truth about the world. At least that's what they've conditioned us to believe. They simply label us as extremists or paranoid, destroying careers and reputations in the process. For many, this is a fate equal to drinking hemlock. My research for the Conspirator's Odyssey series began with a prime focus on the John F. Kennedy assassination when this whole thing began to emerge. Then I asked myself a question. If the answers we seek are limited to only how President John F. Kennedy was killed and ignore the reasons behind his demise, then we will forever remain lost in translation. I fully understand anyone's skepticism concerning my grand theoretical endeavor that I'm artistically compiling the research of which into a fact-based book series, but allow for me to set the record straight in a clear and unflinching way. The Conspirator's Odyssey series is not fiction, my friends. Not fiction at all. I just present it that way. My method for provoking thought aimed at the masses, I use fact-based fiction as my conduit. I feel it's better absorbed this way and won't put you to sleep like many authors of nonfiction. Plus, as a family man, I'm bound by the same fear as us all. Losing my wife or children in a covert assassination plot for simply seeking or speaking to truth. I have enough problems being an African American and raising 2 African American children in the land of the free. As a pragmatic author of fact-based fiction, and in order to protect my life and the lives of my family, I present the totality of what I've discovered not only through the covert counsel of my anonymous source, coupled with an extremely rigorous research process, but in a fashion that demonstrates the unfettered draw of speculative fiction. Simply put, I present my story as a warning wrapped in a lie in order to tell you the truth. I'm a member of a secret society, one that uses the concept of alternative history to slowly awaken the masses to the covert doings of individuals of this world and beyond. It's a weapon stronger than you may think, for one cannot save a world nestled in a box, strategically dormant to the realities of their existence. By exposing the masses to the idea of an alternative history, I believe it will help soften the blow felt when the world's dirty laundry can no longer be contained. Writers such as myself, producers, film directors, etc. have been doing this for years, preparing the masses for the inevitable. Think back to Rod Serling's 1959 to 1964 series, The Twilight Zone, or the Mercury Theater's October 30th, 1938 broadcast of The War of the Worlds over the Columbia Broadcasting System radio, where actor Orson Welles continues to frighten the hell out of me. I knew then that in order to shape the psyche and affect the consciousness of my brethren, I would have to do it today just as they did back then. My theory will dare to shatter the needle concerning President John F. Kennedy's demise that is both relevant and necessary given the redundant cycle our government has had we truth seekers on since Kennedy's assassination. This theory will travel you back in time, a time where ancient aliens peeled themselves from the cave walls and shook the rock from their bodies that were their worship likeness had been carved. When it comes to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, many of we truth seekers would firmly proclaim, I don't read fiction. Well, I must take issue with this particular state of mind, as I believe it's a conditioned thought pattern that is simply thinly veiled semantics. The word theory, by definition, is a supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent of the thing to be, i.e. the convoluted conundrum of the John F. Kennedy assassination. So if you read anything, and I do mean anything, on the JFK assassination, you're reading what you refer to as fiction, because every author approaches the assassination of the president from a theoretical perspective.
Thank you for that. So, AK, I know, so basically what you're saying, that you're creating fiction to tell your stories so you won't get hurt, your family won't get hurt, and to protect your sources. But what you're and putting into your books based on facts, truth.
Very much so. It's definitely based on.
Algebra, it's like if you got the set of words that you say that makes things all fall together and make a clearer picture with less explanatory bullshit. It's the deeper truth. So that's what I get. That's what you're doing.
See, my approach is twofold. And I know this is off script, but my approach is twofold. I write fact-based fiction because there's a plethora of us true truth seekers out there looking for answers in and under everything. But there are also those individuals that are continually deaf, dumb, and blind. They don't want to see the truth or hear the truth. They just want to be entertained. Pretty much, they are the main targets of the military's PSYOPs program, where the television programs and all this other stuff that's out there pretty much got they're brainwashed. So they don't want to see or hear the truth because that's not what they're steered or directed to do. I not only want to entertain them, but I'm trying to wheedle out them to get to the true truth seekers. And only true truth seekers will see the truth and relevancy behind my words.
It makes so much sense to entertain people so that they can consider what they otherwise wouldn't if it weren't entertaining.
The film series The Matrix did the same thing. They entertained us a lot. Because what was that crazy junk Revolutions or number 2 of The Matrix? You don't know anybody until you fight them. Shut up. You just wanted to have another fight scene because you knew that was more popular to the customers. You know what I mean? The ones that were sitting in the theaters. You don't really get to know someone until you fight them. That didn't make a bit of sense to me.
Well, we're experiencing a lot of cutout here. Sean, do you think it might be better if... Hey?
Yeah, sure thing. Why don't you just put the number you want me to contact you on in the chat box below, and I'll do that.
Okay, AK, could you type that into Sean, and he will call you because you're cutting out...
No, it's your line, Janet. It's your line.
My line. Okay. Okay. Except I can't get him to work. Come on. Well, I'm going to ask another question while I figure. So I know AK can't reveal the names of your sources, but what kind of people are these sources? Are they ex-military? Are they witnesses to the events? Are they extraterrestrial? Type of information and source of information that your sources are revealing to you that you use as basis for your fiction novels?
I have to plead the fifth on that. Anything I say that's not carefully scripted could actually lead you and those that are behind me on my coattails that are looking at me to see if there's anything between the relevancy in my story, which they know is true. Pretty much it can lead directly to this individual. Or I call it.
I got one for you.
I call it he or it.
We don't have to. We'll leave your source. It's okay, Janet. Don't probe on that. We got something here. I want to pick it. Okay, so look, what's from your perspective going to take? It doesn't have to say you, but take a.
You're breaking out. You're breaking up really bad. I can't hear what you're saying. I hear you.
Oh gosh.
All right, I'm getting this phone number to call us, and we'll try it on a different way. Did that come through to you, Sean?
No, it did not. I can go ahead and try. I got a couple numbers for you.
Okay.
All right, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're speaking into a cell phone, so we'll do what we can to get through this.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Are you guys talking to the telephone here?
Yeah, should we come over here and talk into the cell phone?
Okay, let's imagine that you are a conspiracy theorist, AK, and you're hearing that right now the drums of war are rumbling about whether we should send our troops into Iraq again. What do you think is really going on if you were a conspiracy theorist saying this is all some kind of orchestrated event? What would be going on behind it?
I would say that without any research behind that, and those are more political affairs that are going on now, dealing with our national security. I always say there's always something to this. Anything that goes on, like the drumbeats of war, there's always something to it. Somebody wants to make money off of another war. The military industrial complex needs to experiment with more experimental weaponry. It could be anything. Plus, politicians want to make a little bit more money and please their I'll call them shareholders, or their people that actually fund them. The ones that want these things that's going to benefit their corporation. It could be any number of things. And it also could have an extraterrestrial connection as well, because the intergalactic war that I allude to in my work deals with them having us clash amongst each other. You know, that's why I call it these extraterrestrial species, and there's plenty of them out there, many of them out there. They are here to inveigle mankind, to obfuscate mankind. They've been doing it for eons. They've been doing it since the planet Earth was formed and mankind was formed by what my research has led me to believe that was the Greys.
They could be orchestrating something at their level then too.
Exactly, very much so.
One of the things that's interesting to consider is that all of the above might, to some degree, be contributing to and interacting to give us the result we get. All the different levels of consciousness.
I believe that, but this my research has led me to believe that the only reason that we've been in existence for so long, or that we've, in a sense, had a say in our human events, or in historical events, is because behind closed doors in some of the top secret clandestine operations that are going on, which Dwight David Eisenhower had something to do with, the advent of nuclear weapons was one deterrent that actually acted as a counterbalance for humanity. But that the one Swilzer, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not saying that right. He's one of the philosophers, as well as with Albert Einstein, that sent the letter to develop before the Manhattan Project took off under Roosevelt. They did that. My research has also led me to believe that Albert Einstein and that other gentleman, Swilzer, were actually reptilians.
Well, let's go back a little bit in time. We're going to the ancient time, but you started investigating JFK. So what happened there that JFK figures so prominently in your writing?
Well, I'm going to evolve and release a secret to you that not many people know it. I think I've said it on an interview or two, but I don't go any further than my statement here, because I have something to do with the JFK assassination, if not through my bloodline. Back then and until this very day, we, the people of African descent, have been continually marginalized, dismissed outright, all because of the beauty of our complexions. This marginalization, this dismissiveness was like a reinforced shield, a heavily fortified protective barrier for us, which for generations has held steady. The many books on President John F. Kennedy, his assassination, Warren Commission, Garrison investigation, to the books chronicling the plethora of eyewitness deaths omit the many African-American witnesses who, too, were fortunate to have hand-me-down cameras and video recording machines in 1963. Our government, like the plague, rained down on numerous European-American service members to civilians in their ongoing effort at covering up all that happened that day in Dallas, while African-Americans in all of Camelot, who witnessed in great detail a United States president, one who spoke to their societal qualms, slain in broad daylight. That gumption, that evil, that display of unfettered power, bold and unapologetic, seen by we the people of African descent, triggered an instinctive reaction to quickly disperse, to store away their recordings, photographs, and their memories of all that really took place that day, and more importantly, to never, ever speak of President John F. Kennedy slain. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, ladies and gentlemen. My great-grandfather, may he rest in peace, told me on many occasions that upon the fall of Camelot, we the people of African descent were never as safe in this nation as we were on that bloody day in 1963 Dallas, and after the fact concerning JFK's murder. He'd go on to say, I saw a child with a rifle in a storm drain on Elm Street.
So this was your great-grandfather. He was there at the assassination, and he witnessed this child in the storm drain on Elm Street. And you're saying that he was he the lone shooter, or is there a bunch of shooters? What was his role in this assassination of JFK?
Again, I try not to allude on this one because it would point fingers at certain members of my family. And certain this stuff that's been passed down, but this is a true story. This is what I got from my grandfather. Basically, this child, he alludes, actually he told me flat out that the child is that one that delivered that fatal shot from the storm drain location. But there were many operatives out there. There were many. Oswald was just meant to be, he used a Kuykendall, which ultimately leaves a very, very strong smoky trail, and it's very loud. It made everybody focus on that, the book depository because of that smoky trail or whatnot. But he was just one part of the entire mission. There were many different operatives out there shooting at him, but the fatal shot came from the storm drain, and that came from a child, the only one that could actually fit inside the storm drain after more research on my part. But that's exactly what my great-great-great-grandfather told me.
So what was the reason why they assassinated Kennedy, according to your theory?
It was only one reason. Forget all the Russian and Japanese involvement and all other kind of crap. It all happened based on one thing and one thing only. He was going to pull out the already 12,000 troops, and he was not going to greenlight an all-out assault of Vietnam. Basically, he basically was going to pull out of Vietnam. That's why. But there was more things churning. The same thing that Dwight David Eisenhower spoke against, the military-industrial complex, and the weaponry being forged since 1947 from their defense contracts. They were working on concepts known as a superhuman soldier, and they needed testing grounds in order to make that happen. And if you go back to Eisenhower's farewell address, just look at think about put place between what I'm saying and
yeah. So wait. So existentially, they were planning. This was all just a setup because to intervene in Nam. It was all arranged. That was where it was going. What
yes.
we got when Kennedy was dead was we got Johnson warring in Vietnam. That must have been the intention because that's what we got.
Exactly, it was an intention, but this is where it gets tricky. It was actually a grand science experiment. They were testing on our boys. They were testing new weaponry on our boys, drugs to try to enhance their ability on the battlefield.
Whoa.
That's what was happening. Why do you think many of our boys have disappeared after that? And they created this whole concept known as missing in action. That was about a bunch of crap. Certain people couldn't come back. And even some of our men were losing their minds on the battlefield. How would they be normal when they were in the States and they go overseas in a month or a year's time? They've gone absolutely out of their mind. They're killing their own comrades. They're raping civilians out there. They're just going crazy. Basically, it was a serum that was developed. That was a weaponized serum that was developed since 1947 after the Roswell UFO incident, where they had beings that they actually used the genetics to try to enhance the human gene structure, genome. And they tested this out on our boys. This was a grand science experiment. No one's even thinking about this at all. And remember, when I market my supposed fact-based fiction work, I don't market from a fictional perspective or point of view. I market from a factual point of view based on my hard research. Basically, Vietnam was nothing but a test. It was nothing but a grand science experiment. And if you go to Eisenhower's farewell address, you'll hear him talking about that when he said, we the people becoming captives of a scientific, technological elite. This is what I'm talking about. Eisenhower's forewarning all of us. It was just his farewell address was entirely too heavy for the citizenry at that time. It was just too heavy. Plus, he was not only protecting himself, but he was also informing the citizenry. We just didn't get it. My research, I got it.
Okay, so you were talking about that there's a tie between the Roswell crash and JFK's assassination. Can you tell us a little bit about what your concept is of the Roswell crash and how these two things related. And I'm going to try to get on with Skype. So I'm giving you the phone to Sasha because it's really hard for us to hear.
Yeah, wait. I want to go back to the structure of what you're saying because it's really interesting. It's a rehearsal for the entire war could even be seen as an experiment or a rehearsal of some kind, the way that the Boston Marathon was a rehearsal for declaring martial law on a false flag kind of thing. But you're saying the entire war with all those people killed might have been just that kind of thing, and it's really hard to grasp, but, it's entirely possible.
I believe that. A lot of these conspiracies that we hear about being conspiracies, I don't know why they could label them conspiracies. These are possible truths. Probable and possible truths. They're all connected. When it comes down to war and the war powers, they're all connected. Even the advent of the nuclear arms was a strategy in and of itself. Nuclear arms was important. It was an important strategy, and ever since 1939, we've been developing that. Developing through the Manhattan Project under Roosevelt, developing nuclear weapons. But in 1942, something took place that happened over the city of Los Angeles. That's where you got this concept of Battle of Los Angeles. Remember that Battle of Los Angeles?
Oh yes.
That was an actual real event. That was a threat by actually the gray alien species that was going to destroy one of our cities because we had something of theirs. We had beings. We had very important beings that I kind of take a little bit of liberties with and say they were royalty, but they were very important to their species. But we had these beings in a covert operation that actually goes back to 1917 when a German ace fighter pilot by the name of Richthofen, he was known as the Red Baron. He was the only human to ever be documented as shooting down an extraterrestrial craft. And ever since then, we've had these beings. Guess where? In the sub-basement of the U.S. Capitol building. And ever since that's the reason that since 1917, we've had these beings under our own, control. So what happens is that the Greys wanted these beings back, and they not only threatened to destroy a city just as a proof of their supreme rule or power, but they basically just wanted the species back. But guess who assisted them? Dwight David Eisenhower. Because in 1939, both Cordell Hull, the Secretary of State then, Cordell Hull, as well as Roosevelt, gave Eisenhower a specific mission to draw up a treaty between those two species. But just like our military boys, our military brass have always been working angles, between other nations, and why not work the same angle when it comes down to an extraterrestrial species? They've been working deals and working angles, but all this time they never knew that we had who they were seeking. But when they thought that we had them, they threatened us, and the Battle of Los Angeles took place. Did you notice that they couldn't shoot down what they sent over the city of Los Angeles? It was a destroyer. They were actually going to eviscerate Los Angeles and everybody and the population in Los Angeles. Eisenhower told them, based on his knowledge of their weaponry, he told them to bombard just send a lot of anti-artillery weapons up there until he got a chance to talk to the species, because he was what they call a spokesman.
The telephone company. Here, I'll fix it.
Okay. Hold on, I'm just going to shut this off. Okay, hold on, I'm going to hang this up. Okay, let's just try to leave the phone alone. Keep talking.
It's gone. Hello, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, we're back, yeah.
Somebody doesn't want us to talk.
Okay, so last thing I heard is the Battle of Los Angeles and how it was misrepresented, but what was really going on behind the scenes.
Yes, Eisenhower was actually in 1939. He was awarded, and that's planet-wide. He was the actual spokesman for the human race. He was given that title after a whole bunch of negotiations between all heads of state around the world, America got a chance to be the spokesman and got a chance to pick someone, and they picked Eisenhower. Now, this is where it gets tricky. My research has led me to, because basically after 1939, if you Google this or research this, look at how fast Eisenhower's military career took off and how fast it worked. It's never happened in the history of the American Armed Forces and our American brass. No one ever moves in rank that fast. No one. Eisenhower did. He moved in quick, steady fashion. It's like in breakneck speed. I say, if you research it, you'll see. But this had everything.
So you're saying he was kind of selected for this program to be this ambassador?
Yes.
To the expression?
Exactly. He was actually I'll call it an intermezzo, like in food service. He's like that little small little thing to help wet your palate before your next meal. He was actually the median. He was actually what you call the spokesman for the human race. He was chosen, not by in a sense, everybody in the world chose him because America got awarded this. Roosevelt, and Secretary of State Cordell Hull fought like hell for to have America lead these talks, and that's this is all covert between all nations. This is all covert, and since Roosevelt got a chance to got it to America, which it was a hard-fought win, then they chose Eisenhower based on Eisenhower's background and based on what his assessment. You heard, what was that assessment that he did? Assessing World War I. He broke it down in a powerful manuscript or a powerful dossier, and that's when they said that he could actually draw up the treaty. Eisenhower was the one that actually drew up the treaty between the gray alien species and the human race. He drew that up. But
do you think Eisenhower might be more than human? He might not be purely just a human. He might be extraterrestrial.
He could be. My research hasn't taken me to that. But in a sense, he does. My research is telling me that he has some kind of connection in some way, shape, or form. If not, he was abducted at an earlier age. Because when he first went into the military, he went into West Point, the military academy of West Point. If you think about this, it seems like he was protected ever since he entered. First, he played semi-pro baseball. This is history. He played semi-pro baseball, but he was allowed to come into West Point, and he wanted to play baseball at West Point because he was really good at it. But they wanted him to play football instead. But if he played any kind of semi-pro baseball or professional baseball outside of college and then goes into college, he cannot play any sports by rules. That's just by law. That's by rule of college sports. But the brass set about covering this up and told Eisenhower that he must actually keep that secret because he wanted him to play. That was just one thing that kind of sends a red flag up. The second thing is that he, beyond the brass, he graduated in a time that they said it was like a fun-loving thing, the phrase that they used. His graduating class was the class that the stars fell on, because everyone eventually became general officers, and it just happened to be him too. Even though he graduated with an abysmal academic and an abysmal conduct record, unbecoming of an officer or a future officer, but he graduated. With those things in place. Just check your history. You'll see he graduated with these things, and that's another red flag that tells you, hold up, something's going on here. But then there was one incident that was really, really strange. If I can remember it. Oh, you guys are killing me. He actually had an incident that took place where he was protected in one-way place. He was supposed to be thrown out of the military a long time ago. Let's just say this. He was supposed to be thrown out of the military a long time ago because an officer at one time found, while he was on station somewhere, found that he had taken housing allowance, that they had made a mistake in the housing allowance, and they gave him at least $215 more than what he was supposed to get. He kept it. He wasn't duty bound. He did not stand firm to his being duty bound and to give that money back, because brass or any officer is not supposed to lie, cheat, or steal. and is not supposed to tolerate anyone who does. He took it and he kept it. And basically, when he got found out, he had another officer, a general, that actually protected him because he only got a slap on the wrist and he got a chance to pay the money back when he was supposed to be thrown out of the Corps. Check your history, you'll see it. It's clear as day. So Those are 3 red flags that should tell you he should have been thrown out of the Corps a long time ago. He just wasn't. And there's a reason why he wasn't. He could have been abducted in the past, or he's being groomed for the position that he actually found himself in as the spokesman to the human race. Something's up there. I just haven't put the pieces of the puzzle together yet.
So all these meetings that Eisenhower had with extraterrestrials, are any of them true? And what species did he meet with?
He met with the species of the. He met with what I call the Selhood. He met with the Greys. That was the species, because from my research, the Grey species is the one that seeded our planet Earth. They're the ones that cross-engineered us, human beings. They run they pretty much are. Their home world is about, I think, 560 light years away from us, in a sense, somewhere out there. But they rule. They have their what you call a galactic meeting, a co-op of a lot of all the species. That's including the Anunnaki, all of them, even the Reptilians.
Who are the like the tall whites, the Pleiadians, the Ashtar, the Reptilians, the what are the other ones? The praying mantis. Are they part of this federation?
They are part of this federation. Yes, they are. They speak. They are representatives. And there's another tricky thing that I can tell you, that because of our advent of nuclear weapons, we actually, for the first time, a United States, a human was able to sit on what they call the Council of Galaxies, because those representatives are a part of something called the Council of Galaxies. And guess where their meetings are always 560 light years away from their home worlds, which is a neutral territory that the Greys have set up. And that is between it's between the Mars and another planet. I think between Mars.
Wait a minute. Who is the human? Was it Eisenhower or was it Rice and Gorbachev?
It was Eisenhower. Eisenhower got
so.
Yeah, didn't Gorbachev, Rice have some interaction with these extraterrestrials as well? Yeah, we're piecing together all these stories.
Yes.
So this is the Council of Galaxies, and they're meeting in neutral space. Is that what you said?
Yes, meeting in neutral space, because the gray alien species is the one that rules over the universe. They rule over the universe, and there's many different galaxies in the universe, and they rule over the universe in general. And we are their test subjects. We are their creation. But there's a rogue element that actually broke away from the Council of Galaxies, known as the Reptilians. And they've been at war they're the main ones that have been at war with the Greys since Mars was active, because Mars was our first Earth. It was humanity's first Earth.
So these the aliens that are charge of the universe, this information is corroborated by alien interview about the Roswell Gray that survived, and she says that their species, they called it the domain, they control a quarter of the known universe. The universe is huge, but that's the whole world to us, because they have this part of the universe, this quadrant, and then there's also the I forget what they call it, the old empire. So the old empire is like the reptilian energy. So this seems to be consistent with other pieces of this research we're getting. So let me ask you, do they have a prime directive like on Star Trek?
A prime directive? What do you mean, prime directive?
Of non-interference? They're not supposed to interfere in our evolution?
Yes,
apparently they have interfered. So
they have interfered. They have interfered. There's certain humans and humanity, or humans and the Earth. We're like a prize. It's something about us that the gray alien species created. They created us to find a way to save themselves, for the future, whether our bodies are used as hosts or, for breeding their offspring, with the abduction stories that you're hearing. We're like a prize, but there's one rogue element. That's why they allow the Anunnaki to be in place. They allow, certain factions with over 7 to 8 billion people on this planet. They've allowed certain people to move, certain species to move through it, doing their own thing on the planet, but staying firmly within a galactic mandate in a sense. But the rogue element of the Reptilians, they were here trying to do more things than that. They were trying to actually create warriors or seeding us with like plagues to try to get us to, because it's like a host trying to get us to be an arm of their warring factions. And this all came to a head. The great alien species found out that they've been doing this since, because basically by happenstance, the Reptilians found that after Mars, after a war, the galactic war broke out in Mars, and the Greys had to eviscerate Mars, just like the story in the Bible of Noah's of the Ark. They pretty much planted and seeded us on this planet, Earth, known as Earth. They planted and seeded us and cross-engineered us. That's what the Greys have done. But by happenstance, the Reptilians, came to this galaxy, or our galaxy, and seen this species known as human, and they wanted to test their own weaponry on us. They're trying to get us to be like some kind of zombies in a sense to fight on their side. When the great, it's hard for me to explain just off the top of my head, without giving you bullet points. But basically, they were trying to do something to us.
Hold on, please. We just got a message. Hold on. We just got a message from our producer that our connection was lost with the server, so he's reconnecting us. Just he'll let us know. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah.
Come out of the earphones. This is.
I can't do anything to our commercial break. Let me text Sean. He's trying to get us back online. Okay, hold on. Boy, this is bad. They don't want us to get this information out there.
Oh yeah, and I'm speaking like I'm speaking like I'm talking backwards. I don't know why they're stopping me now. If I was clear and crisp, then they'd really be scared.
Okay, I talk to Sasha while I use 2 hands. Anyway, let me just see if we're back online. I don't know if we're broadcasting or not. Hello, everybody. Hold on. Sean, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you. I'm trying to get the server back now. For some reason, it's coming back busy.
Wow, this is like the second time we've got booted out. Very strange.
It happens to me a lot. Every time I'm starting to talk about certain things, and even though I'm talking in circles, it's not even like a straight line. I'm talking in circles, hitting you with certain pieces of it. And, I hate talking like that, but I'm trying to get as much information.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. We're having a hard time hearing you because we're on one little cell phone that we're holding, and it's not the best voice. Sean, when you get us back, can you try?
Okay, we're back.
Okay, we'll continue. Okay, so I'm not sure what was the last thing that was said. So go ahead, just pick up where you think it's a logical place to talk. And
I think I was talking about the fact of Eisenhower being placed on the Council of Galaxies. He and this Council of Galaxies is between Mars and another planet. People might have noticed it. I think scientists have noticed this. It was it's a dwarf planet. I forgot what they call that dwarf planet. But it's a dwarf planet, but that's actually a planet, but that's a hub. And if you know any kind of research on it, there's a light on that dwarf planet, and that.
So it's the brown dwarf. What they call nemesis. At least that's what our research is saying. That
okay.
So nemesis is actually a brown dwarf sun, but there are other planets around that, and
yes,
so
that's there.
So that makes sense. That makes sense with the theory.
Yes.
Okay, we were talking about the different species. I don't know if that got on the radio, but you were talking about which species are who's in control of the archetype now.
I want to focus a little bit on the treaty because Mark Richards has said that Eisenhower allowed the aliens to take 100,000 women for their brothel under Dulce. And it was only when Carter found out about all this stuff going on that there was any kind of reversal. But what Richard said is that there was a reptilian that actively helped Richard that had the F-22 or whatever the super helicopter was. But an alien actually assisted and brought his craft into the rescue of whoever they got out of Dulce.
I'm not familiar with that one. I'm familiar with Dulce, though. I'm familiar with the abductions as well. The abductions in Dulce
treaty,
had something to do with the treaty as well. Eisenhower, basically, let's say Eisenhower, I believe the concept of Captain America was in homage to Eisenhower himself
wow.
It was. I consider it like as himself because first it was a soft sell to the concept of the superhuman soldier. That was an early soft sell of what they were working on, and all this took place in 1917, where Richthofen and the Red Baron shot down a UFO in Germany. Now, if you think about the concept of Captain America, who's his arch nemesis? His arch nemesis is the Red Skull, and the Red Skull is from where? Germany.
Oh, God.
So, I try to have fun with this, but it's the truth. It's just, I put two and two together. I've seen it all. I'm sitting here looking at the material, and I'm like thinking because on the clandestine operation, a very cloaked, secretive operation, they were working on the beings. There was over 9 beings that were recovered after this spacecraft got shot down by the Red Baron. 2 they watched escape through the woods. 2 the German forces watched escape through the woods, and they recovered 7. 4 of these beings were taken by the Americans in collaboration with certain heads in the Russian Empire, in the German Empire, and they were left with 3. We didn't want to study and research anything on our homeland, so basically we negotiated a deal where we're going to actually study with the German scientists in their home country, because Germany would allow us to have a huge amount of test subjects and whatnot. And they were working on a superhuman soldier, but what they were doing was creating monsters, i.e. the Red Skull. That's where the concept of the Red Skull came from. But America, we were going to do it right. Based on the research that we got from our tests in Germany, we planned on doing it right. And that's where they came up with a concept of the Captain American concept. And it was actually fished to the individual that actually wrote it. It was actually covertly fished as a covert pledge or a covert award to Eisenhower, because Eisenhower saved our bacon on 2 separate occasions in 1942, which is the Battle of Los Angeles, and in 1952, the Washington merry-go-round. Remember when all the ships came around in Washington, D.C.?
What species was attacking us in the Battle of Los Angeles? I missed that because I couldn't quite hear.
The species that were attacking us in the Battle of Los Angeles was the gray alien species, the one that actually controls the universe. Most of those things were threats, but they were making a threat because we had something or someone very important to their royal bloodline. We had someone very important, and that basically what happened was, from my research and my theory and a little bit of my research, I put 2 and 2 together and said that they had royalty. They shot a royal Richthofen and the Red Baron shot a royal craft out of the sky.
Right.
That's based on my theory as well as a little bit of the research. Put 2 and 2 together because we don't ever get the full answer. We have to try to find these answers, which I always say to myself that most people don't look at life the way I look at it. And I say that I'm an unemployed and rightfully unemployable journalist. And I say I'm the best there ever is or ever was. And I say because I seek the truth in everything. I seek the truth in everything, any and everything. But if those pesky little truths and those facts are not given to me, then it forces me to take targeted liberties with the telling of the tale in order to piss them off.
Well, okay, what you do is what we would call, you have a heuristic a value that no matter what, once people hear your ideas, they have to deal with those ideas and see how cogent they are. They can't dismiss them. It's really powerful.
I mean, you can't dismiss it because I put it's like a massive puzzle that I'm putting together rather creatively, might I add. I'm putting a massive puzzle together. It might be a little bit scatterbrained on this radio program, and sometimes when I'm talking on other programs and in interviews, but it's as true. Basically, the things that I'm speaking and the reason why I approach the written word from a factual perspective, because what I'm talking about is based in my theory, and anybody that's basing theories, we believe in it wholeheartedly. And I'm just like a person that loves to put puzzles together, and these puzzles are there. It's there in American history. Think about Eisenhower and his precipitous rise, breakneck speed in his military career. He went from 1939 being a lieutenant colonel, and he went to 5-star general in less than 3 years. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. Most of the time, he went from 1 star to 2 stars in the same year. That's impossible. But he did it.
Right. So he was obviously selected for this, and it might be because of who he is as a soul, maybe. Because from my understanding, this game is even beyond the earth and beyond this incarnation. It's many incarnations, and like Billy Meyer says that he was selected because of who he was as a soul, and he worked with them over many, many millennia in different incarnations. We've got about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to know, this is fascinating. Who's in control of planet Earth right now? Who's created this prison planet where only the 1% to control and rule and have all this money, and the rest of us are all just corporate executive economic slaves? What's your theory on that?
Well, it's all controlled by the gray alien species. And no matter what other species are on this planet, it's all controlled by the great alien species because they control the universe itself and all the galaxies within the universe. And it could be even extended universes as well. But they control the universe. They set the mandates. They set the rules. Humanity is a young, very young species. We're in our infancy, as they believe. And Kennedy's part in this. Just to break away, the gray alien species is in control overall. But who mandates and controls and keeps humanity in line, in a sense, from a human perspective? It's known as the Commission Trilateral, or the Trilateral Commission.
Trilateral Commission.
Yeah, they keep us, and they keep everything on the level according to the treaty that has been amended at least 40 to 50 times throughout the generation, throughout the years. But it's been a treaty between the extraterrestrial species that allow them to take some humans and not, but they don't realize that these individuals with all these advanced weaponry and whatnot, you can't mandate them through a treaty. Only thing we can do is catch them breaking that treaty. But we have leverage. We have a counterbalance, and that's nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons actually harm the entire universe. It doesn't just harm humans and Earth. It harms the entire universe because of the waves the shock waves that go out through space. It actually harms their home planet, even that far away from us. That's why the advent of nuclear weapons acted as a counterbalance for us, and eventually had humans that are in their infancy take a seat on the Council of Galaxies. They have us taking a seat in the Council of Galaxies. But the Trilateral Commission, or Commission Trilateral, is what keeps us in line and keeps all presidents in line as well. It keeps all presidents in line as well. And even when
let me just get my head around this. So we have the nuclear weapons. There were some reported incidences where UFOs came over our nuclear facilities and just turned them off or repointed. How does that play into this theory?
They're in the process of turning it off. It does not. Those are nothing but speculative theories. Remember, I told you that the reptilians are at war. It's called an intergalactic war between the species. They've been at war with us. They were the ones that actually got us to invent the nuclear weapons. And in order to prevent any kind of annihilation or any kind of strength from the gray alien species, the reptilians actually prompted Roosevelt into forming the Manhattan Project and ultimately nuclear weapons. But it needed to be tested. And so therefore, I know of a general. I mean, a person that was in a general that was actually in the in a think room or whatever, and predicted Japanese fleet when they came to bomb Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. He knew that where they were. He knew their positioning, but certain people above him ignored him on orders from Roosevelt, because Roosevelt needed a grand reason to eventually to enter into the war and to eventually bomb Japan, the Empire of Japan, in order to send a message. It wasn't just for Japan; it was to send a message to the gray alien species.
Fascinating. We're almost out of time, but one last question. What about religions? Are they real, concocted? Any truth in religions?
Religions are concocted, all concocted. The concept of Noah's Ark came from the gray alien species seeding this planet from Mars after they eviscerated Mars after the war between the reptilians and themselves came to a head. They had to they had to destroy that planet because of what the reptilians did.
Okay. I think we're at the top of the hour.
After Eisenhower, who is in charge now?
Thank you so much, AK. We'll have to have you back next time.
Looking forward to it, guys.
Break.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Most God's freaks, that's just a reading cortex, looking for an answer it doesn't have. See? Even your brain is just screwed. The neurobiological system keeps telling it to run. It needs to wait. Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present exist. That is mere insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting the danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio!
We find that we detect people.
Even if you had the password, it takes you 10 minutes to get in, and you still got to find the files. Monday.
We demand free access.
Started learning codes that night.
The idea of having your own computer, a personal computer, was inconceivable.
Problems with high-quality information fields. From hacking news to world important issues. Constant stream of relevant nonsense. There is only one choice, one chance. So tune in to the internet and beyond with Count Foster. Only on Revolution Radio. You think it's that neighborhood?
Tune in to Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern on Studio A to hear Tammy Adams share her knowledge of an unknown realm on Talking with Your Angels. Join Tammy as she uncovers hidden secrets about the spiritual world of angels, ghosts, and other entities that have been with us longer than we know. Tammy is a psychic, a teacher, spiritual coach, a leader in her field, and will be sharing her information and stories with you. So join us on Tuesdays at noon on Studio A. With Tammy's guidance, you'll find out who has been watching over you from the other side, and soon you will be talking with your angels.
Survey the Moon, the largest UFO YouTube channel, is now the largest civilian-run radio station. Join us Thursdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Survey the Moon Radio. Cousins Brothers Productions and Rome Productions working together as researchers on a mission to uncover the truth. Dr. J. Andy Elias will take the listeners on an amazing journey. We will be talking to the top ufologists, UFO experiencers, alien abductees, and taking your calls from around the world. Third Phase of Moon Radio is now on the airwaves on Revolution Radio. Be sure to join us Thursdays, 8 to 10 Eastern. My name's Blake Cousin, and we'll see you again next time.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Ben Garcia at freedomstuff.com, the People Station.
Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome back to Revolution Radio, Studio B. This is the Sacred Matrix. We're having some connection problems with Janet and Sasha. I'm trying to get them back right now. But I'd like to mention that we are 100% listener supported. Everything that you can do and have continued to do would be gratefully appreciated this month. We need your donations to keep this service going, to keep this radio provided for people. Anything can help. Please, if you can donate, please do. I'm going to keep trying to connect with them. We have been joined here by Ethan Indigo. Hi, Ethan. How you doing?
Peace. What's going on?
Not much.
We
just
for a second.
Yeah, connection. Okay, I think we have him back. Hi, Janet.
Hi. Welcome back, everybody, to Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties. So, Ethan, can you hear us?
Yeah, totally.
Well, she's got to give a plug for, give a donation to us.
Yeah. Sorry, we were running around like crazy trying to get this reconnected. Please, everybody, do take a few minutes, and Revolution Radio relies on your donations. So take a moment and go over to our donation button and donate what you can. $1, $5, $15, $20, $100, whatever you can donate will be greatly appreciated. Much for your donation. So we have with us Ethan Indigo Smith. And Ethan, can you tell our listeners a little about who you are?
Yeah, I've written a few books. I wrote what I call meta-philosophy called The Matrix of Four. And I have written some fiction as well, but one of the fiction characters that I have one of his diatribes, points out that anyone who writes fiction nowadays is useless, being in this postmodern era of nuclear experimentation. Anyway, it's kind of a satirical look on modern day world, postmodern day world. But the Matrix of Four is arguably derived from Om or Yin Yang symbol, or many other archetypal formats have what I call the subtitle, a duality of polarity. And I break that down as a kind of metaphysical way to look at politics and the individual consciousness as well. So mass consciousness and individual consciousness as well.
So your works are based on George Orwell's 1984, and you wrote a book. What was the book that was based on?
The Complete Patriot's Guide to Oligarchical Collectivism. And in that, I relate, actually inspired by Orwell's take on this, what is a matrix of four, and he relates proles and inner party, outer party, and brotherhood in his fictional look at the what is actually a post-atomic apocalypse, post-atomic, not necessarily apocalyptic, but what we call Orwellian nightmare, right? Because of 1984, Orwellian, George Orwell, and that actually takes place in a post-atomic England, and today we see the same situation developing.
So, how can you relate? Oh, you're talking. I'm sorry, we're breaking up.
Oh, that's all right. Well, I was going to relate it exactly to the real world right now, in the sense that after Fukushima, Japan signed into law just in the last couple months what they so ineloquently call the secrecy law, that basically bans anyone from sharing information that they deem a state secret. And the limited whistleblower laws, rights that we have and protections that we have in the United States are now nothing in Japan. And so any reporter that goes against what is a state secret, i.e. reporting on Fukushima potentially, and it was definitely inspired by the atomic disaster, nuclear disaster in Fukushima. So we see the limiting of the freedom of information in Japan, literally because of a nuclear power plant malfunction, disaster, paradigm event, of course, that is relatable to exactly what happened in England in this 1984, in this Orwellian world. First was the war, and then was the removal of all rights. One couldn't even write a diary / have a book. Most books were contraband. And the contraband book that the main character, Winston Smith, gets a hold of, I wrote a similar piece, and a reality nonfiction piece based on that basically is inspired by the original
Sean,
liberties.
I think we're going to have you, producer Sean, call the number again, the phone, and then go to the back room. You can try to Skype me on Sasha's. Are you there, Sean?
Okay, will do.
Yeah, we can't hear Ethan. We're having a horrible time.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, Sasha's going to be on the phone. I'm going to go get a...
I can hear you a lot better.
Room. Okay, here we go.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't hear what you were saying, Ethan.
Oh, you can...
Right, so as nearly as I got, there's a matrix of four, and you're going to apply how the matrix of four applies to the current actors on the world stage now, or something like that.
Well,
every fourth word.
The way I look at it originally is inspired by 1984, in which Orwell presents the proles, the inner party, the outer party, and the brotherhood. And I take that abstract and fictional look at these, fictional types in 1984, and look at that as, how does that reflect reality in total? And there's actually, in any political situation, one can find the matrix of four. I call them the four archetypes of politics: the idiots, zealots, elitists, and patriots. And by patriot, I don't mean militaristic jingo. I actually use these terms relative to information. And idiots, that's not necessarily an insult. It's just you're not paying attention to information that you have access to, right? And zealots are people that, despite information that they have, encountered, they still think counter to that information, right? Zealously. And elitists use information to benefit themselves or their clique. And so they're like, those three characters actually are like the three wise monkeys: hear no evil, see no evil, and the third being speak no evil, right? The third monkey is sharing. The elitists always have secrets, and they speak no evil, right? You'll never hear the truth from them. And then there's actually a fourth monkey, the fear no evil, who this parable, this adage, in this visual presentation is rooted in Asia. And in Asian cultures, there's every action begins at the dantian, right, or the root chakra. And so fear no evil holds his dantian and is unmoved, but looks, listens, and observes and speaks what's going on, right? And so in any political situation, we can use this to better our own observations and look out for the elitists, zealots, and elitists stirring up the soup.
So how would you apply that to the world stage on this day?
Well, Iraq, for instance, there's some zealous. You have to be zealous to go to war, right? Or and maybe even idiocy, and usually the elitists are benefiting from it, right?
Yep.
So in any war, you'll see who is the elitist real easy, and you'll also see feigned or institutionalized patriotism, or in this case, kind of a religious zealotry. That's what we call it, right? Religious zealotry. And so they're basically not hearing anything alternative to their perspective and proceeding to kill and commit nefarious acts, And I coined the term, or one of a few people anyway, that coined the term terrorist, right? So who is a terrorist? Like TERROR, that's what we think of as a terrorist. Well, I term terra, like Earth, TERRA. So to be a terrorist is to refuse to participate in warmongering actions, because what difference is an IUD or an RPG, or an, so these things, whether you're killing with whatever uniform, it doesn't matter. You're killing, you're committing atrocity upon another man,
Right.
So we really need to step back, and that's where fear no evil comes into play, who looks, listens, and speaks, but is unmoved by their institutionalized patriotism, right? But it's a great conundrum once someone takes on war upon another. There's only so many choices that you can make, right? You can run, you can yield, you can fight back. And so I don't know, when someone is ardent enough to war, and especially when you look at who wars in history, this area was, once Hindu, Buddhist, and I maybe they did, but I think they just shared their idea, and that's how they proselytized people. And if you're warring to proselytize, well, then you've admitted that something is up, right? So I don't know. Monotheism kind of sketches me out, but I hear a little echo for a second. I don't know if you guys are hearing that.
I just got on. Can everybody hear me?
I can now, yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Okay, so I'll try to catch up. You guys have been talking away, but I'm here now. Continue, and I'll...
Well, we're looking at the four archetypes, and how once a war is started, Ethan seems to think of three main alternatives, although I think of some other ones like negotiation, unilateral offers of some benefit to your rivals so that you can establish goodwill, getting to know each other as human beings as you feel each other's hearts. And I can think of a few alternatives to war myself.
Yeah, I bow down to that, and we're so martial and putative in this world that's often not even given the chance. And yeah, you're right. There's, to the idea they say you can, what's this, fight or flight mechanism, right? Well, that's this one duality, or of this presentation, is that you can actually feign or freeze, right? You can stop and hold on and actually or make friends,
Yeah, and even I would say you could even go beyond you can go to the people that are ignorant at the bottom, to the idiots. And instead of dissing them, you can say, what do they need? And usually, they are so struggling with their needs that they don't even consider the larger issues. And so that, in a way, you can look at poverty as a base cause of war, and poverty as being one of the oligarchy's ways of enslavement.
Yeah,
and that's the elitists that are doing that now.
I really enjoy meditation, and I was meditating recently, and I pondered being a peacemaker, and the thought that arrived pondering that was, well, if you want to make peace, everyone must have a peace. And really, we've set up a world to where we, logic is fallible. And that's one thing we must always understand, that logic is fallible. And we set up a world where we assume, logically speaking, that someone can have too much beyond the scope of accountability money-wise, whereas others can have nothing. And that is one way of logically looking at things. But logic is fallible, right? And so an equally logical way of looking at things is that we should share with our brother man, So it really comes down.
Or to say that the consciousness of those that we think are other are really a shared consciousness with our own, and we can feel them as we feel ourselves if we define ourselves as including them.
Yeah. And with this meta-philosophy of the duality of polarity, we'll see it in the solstices and equinoxes, and we'll also see it in arithmetic. There's 4 operations of arithmetic, right? The basis of all mathematics. But beyond that, we can also see it in jokes and even wise, witty expressions. But to that wise, witty expression, sometimes our heart is in the right place, but it's just not placed right. You know what I mean? And so we can always set ourselves in the right manner just a little bit more, and that all of a sudden makes us that much more effective.
I totally agree. The trick is to be able to embrace all the opposites on each continuum, and it's more than just two continuums, and to just say, and then to use a fair witness and assess the situation at different levels and choose, be a conscious chooser of your behavior. In one level, you say, if there's war in this world, does that mean I'm warring inside myself? And at some level, it's got to mean that.
Yeah. Well, and that's a really good point, because actually that reminds me of so many things, but the inner and outer and macrocosmic reflection and, elemental kind of midway point that we are, this transmutator of masculine and feminine, universal and personal, that human beings are, is represented through that thought. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
it's so interesting. It's like in a basic tantric meditation where you inhale and you stretch your spine up and take in spiritual energy, and then you do a throat hold and bring it down through your chakras to the center of the earth. So you're getting the spiritual to the material. Then you do the belly hold and suck the energy up through your body, and you offer the material to the spiritual. In the end, you realize that our consciousness is the bridge between this apparent dichotomy of the spiritual and the material, and that the edge of the Tao is running along and embracing both, so to speak.
And one of the things that I base the Matrix of Four on is our breath. Which is, when you're meditating, one always takes into account the pauses in between the inhale and the exhale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so there's the inhale, the pause full, and the exhale and the pause empty. And there's your four aspects of breath. All life on the planet has these four aspects. And we do also, even if we're running. But when you're meditating, it's important to just take a moment in these pauses to feel it, to be in it, to be in the breath and note the four parts of breath. And from that's one of the inspirations of this Matrix of Four, because I practice Tai Chi and yoga and meditate, and so I realize this. But one of the later comprehensions that I found, and then realized that this idea was so not mine. It was a bigger idea than my interpretation of it or presentation. Are you there?
I'm still here.
Do you hear that? Is there? Well, anyway, so Om is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, symbol.
Oh yeah, it goes right through all the chakras, every one of them. Yeah.
And it's reflective of on the one layer, initial layer, of four aspects of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And so Om, the oldest symbol on the planet, reflects this matrix of four. And the one polarity that we exist in on a day-to-day basis is waking and sleeping, right? These are the two aspects of consciousness that we undergo on a daily basis. Again, a polarity. The secondary polarity is wakeful dreaming and dreamful wakefulness. Right?
What do you mean by that?
What that means, the third aspect is basically what I term when you're in the zone. Is the third aspect. When you're, the Kung Fu artists will say Wu Wei. This is least input for maximum result in the most beautiful manner. Right? So whether it is doing a graceful gymnastic maneuver or being in the mindset, in the zone, to write something halfway decent, like I like to think I do sometimes, or so whether it's creating something or whether it's doing something, this this wakeful dreaming. It's like when you're climbing a rock or when you're skiing or snowboarding, you're in the zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're falling and you wake, then you wake up from that wakeful zone, being in the zone. And the fourth aspect is what we refer to as Christ consciousness or Buddhahood, and we so rarely get to the third state that we should cherish every instant of it. And it's said, well, for instance, how rarely someone gets to the fourth state, beyond the veil. That's where the expression comes, beyond the veil. That's the point in the symbol that is beyond the veil, the fourth point. And so piercing the veil comes from the symbol, potentially. And then the fourth aspect of consciousness is Christ consciousness or Buddhahood. And we so rarely get there that, we're still talking about the people who do, right?
Can you explain to our listeners what Christed consciousness is in your concept here?
Well, the ability, I like to look at the story of Jesus Christ returning home. And he is now a proficient healer. Well, what we might call today an energy mover. There's plenty of healing practices out there that are very well established. Joe Rei is one, Johrei. I've experienced it's out of Japan. But besides that, many people have the power to heal without touching you. And Jesus became very proficient at this. And he went back home and he was a healer of holy order, right? Of entirety. And they, despite all his legends reaching Nazareth before him coming home, they immediately on seeing him said, "Who are you? You're the son of Mary. You can't do anything. You guys are all following him." Right? And so the ability, Christ consciousness is something that we all are capable of getting to. And even Christ in the Bible himself says, you're capable of being much bigger than I, or something to that effect. I forget the exact words. So, Christ consciousness is ascension. And all meditative practices note this. The path of ascension in Buddhist ideas, but we're all on this route so that hopefully maybe we can get to experience it maybe in this lifetime, right? But it's piercing the veil. It's very magical. It's in Om, in that's the visual and philosophical depiction of it. In the audio depiction of it, there's four sounds. There's A, U, M, Aum, Om, right? And then there's the fourth aspect, which is silence and the unsaid. And so this relates to Christ consciousness. It's something I can't put into words, right? It's that silence, right? There's no word for it. There's no sound for it. It's the fourth aspect.
And what is the veil in your cosmology? What's the veil?
Well, the Buddhists call our five senses the means by which we suffer. At least one set of the five skandhas, I believe it's called. And so there's all these desires and needs and wants, and really when we get caught up in situations where we're just in survival mode, we can really notice this or see others in real survival mode. We're pulled down into less being, right? And so piercing the veil is ascending out of these five skandhas, and only through paying attention to them and even feeding the demons and getting rid of these desires can we ascend, pierce the veil.
There's something about this. The four things and getting them together is that distresses me a little bit when I think what the Buddha is saying. I'm not. All of humanity must be enlightened, or we're not enlightened yet. And I think what he means by that is something like we have to all feel each other and feel our oneness. But when we have this quadratomy, whatever it is, of four, we're going to say we've got to do something to assimilate the needs that are motivating the elite, and what's motivating the zealot, and what's motivating the idiots.
I agree. I think that there is that potential, and I don't mean to make classifications more than understandings. And actually, if we look at the duality of polarity of arithmetic with the multiplication and division and the addition and subtraction in a cross-reference schematic, and then look at that with the same presentation of the solstices and equinoxes, right? We see this universality of four.
Yes.
And there's
four directions.
It's in the oneness. So the table has four legs because it is the optimal route for balance. And same with the universe, potentially in this, at least in the dynamic of the orbiting spheres and the equinoxes and solstices, that it results in the four solar seasons, if you will. So I think it's definitely a valid point, but it's a way to understand and not divide. And we're all capable at any time of being idiots, zealots, elitists, and patriots.
Oh, beautiful! Yes.
And so we discussed this before, the allegory of the cave. We all are in many caves, right? These personal, spiritual, this idea that we're they're like layers of armor or hoods on us sometimes, right? We got to get out of your shell, right? The expression, right?
Well, this audience may not have heard the allegory of the cave, and I did tune in late. So, did you explain the allegory of the cave?
Yeah. So Socrates and Plato hypothesized that society, and it's an allegory, and so he allegorically infuses this personal mind state. Also, getting back to what you just touched on, the political state and the mind state, right? And so he presents humanity as being akin to a group of people in the cave, and of course there's four, right? And of course they are in a duality of polarity too. There's the chained and unchained. The chained are like the idiots, they're kind of restrained and forced to watch this, the shadows on the wall displayed by the captors. And the unchained are like the elitists. They don't need chains. They're transfixed. They're captivated. They're captive, captors. And so the second duality is the captors and freed prisoner. And the freed prisoner is just like Neo in the Matrix. He realizes that his whole life has been spent in a capsule digital world. Well, in the allegory of the cave, he realizes that he's been in a cave where all of reality was contrived. And
right, a lot of people that are waking up to this.
It's
this
just
matrix,
like waking up, yeah. It
are in this cage. Now they're aware they're in a cage, but what do you do about it?
Right, and it's well, what the freed prisoner does is he goes back, and before his eyes have even adjusted to the darkness after being topside for so long, he goes back and tells them, this is all BS, this is all wrong, and it's only a tiny fraction of reality. In fact, it's a lie. And they laugh at him, and they said, oh yeah, if you're so smart, what's this shadow? And he can't even see anymore in the dimness of the cave. And they laugh at him and scorn him and kick him out of the cave. And actually, it's only hypothesized what would become of him at that point. But so it's really back to that matrix of four. There it is again, starkly in the allegory of the cave, which is our own mind state, but also the political state too. And today, I mean, the television is just like the shadows on the wall, really, right? Just step out of the TV, and then you could do a enactment of the allegory of the cave at any time.
So what do you recommend? We're probably running out of time here. I can't quite see. How does it translate to life, and what can we do? Yes.
Well, with the Matrix of Four, I propose the archetype of the righteous rebel. And that is the fourth monkey. That is the freed prisoner. Don't be transfixed by their garbage, because they enjoy and feed off the allegory of the cave. This cavern-esque. They want to limit your thinking, and so expanding it is really important. One of the false dynamics we see throughout the world, this left and right wing paradigm, is not only a dynamic in the United States but worldwide. And what they'll do is do the thesis, antithesis, and then they'll come up with the synthesis, right? And then, so there's three, right? And that's a really kind of limiting, shallow dialectic, and is constructed.
Problem, reaction, solution, yeah. Problem, reaction, solution.
Exactly. And so they limit this thinking. There's a trinity right there. And so we can always go to, instead of the thesis, antithesis, synthesis, we can go to what I call the nullisis. Null and void, all of that. We're going this way, right? And so what's going on in the energy world, which, let's face it, I think Voltaire said, find out who you cannot criticize, and that's who's in charge. And these are the people in charge, the energy oligarchs of the world, and the multinational corporations.
You know what I think what they really need is to confess to their crimes against consciousness and not be retaliated, but their underlying need, I think, is to tell the truth and go on from there.
Yeah, and you know, the NWO abbreviation, I like to call that not the New World Order, I call it the Netherworld Oligarchy. And we've set up an environment that's so destroyed and bereft that, you know what, even the atmosphere in outer space is so polluted with space junk that we're soon not going to be able to shoot things up there anymore or even leave orbit, right? So, like, the baby boomers, they blew everything up, right? They literally have left it so they'll say, like, my parents might say the cliche, hey, why don't you be a go-getter? Well, you guys took it all, you know? And really,
we saw in Gravity what happens from all the junk.
Exactly. And there's the underbelly of the status quo. We have this gleaming, flying F-16, right? But take a look under it, and it's rotting, spent fuel. It's cancerous. It's tumors. And so, actually, out in space, our pride and glory of we're in space. Well, yeah, we have nuclear reactors floating up there that we in satellites and so on that are doomed to come back down. And in fact, some
and then what happened?
Some of them have.
The Mariner 2 that was due to land on Phobos was shot down by a defense system there, but it had been scheduled to shoot nuclear charges into the Earth, into the soil on Mars, and observe the results. And that was shot down by a missile that was captured on film.
Yeah, the nuclear experimentation industry is now approaching year 69, right? It's been almost 69 years since the Trinity test at Nevada, and so year 69 in an experiment of, let's just say, 1 million, because I'm not good at counting, right? But literally, this experiment is beyond the scope of any human time measurement before.
Yeah.
Our culture is what we have to do to keep these things safe. The time scale we have is, our culture is not designed for that. And you can see another interesting thing about the nuclear experimentation industry. The top 10 nuclear power nations are also some of the top 10 weapons producing countries in the world. And the nuclear experimentation industry likes to differentiate peaceful use of nuclear radiation as opposed to armament, which it's MAD, right? MAD. Well, this is the world we live in. This is the world culture. We live in a world where the superpowers, right? What kind of euphemism is that, or misleading Orwellian language is that? The superpowers came up with this term, mutually assured destruction.
But if you look, so when you look above it, when you actually look above that whole thing about in a larger perspective, you can see that nuclear war is being waged upon all the inhabitants of this planet. If you have a big enough time frame, from my own studies from 2024 BC, that we've got great records of a nuclear exchange in Mesopotamia, and the same as for Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro on the Indus Valley. And this is, only a few thousand years ago. And so this is cumulative. This has been happening for a long time here. And
I said Nevada earlier. I meant New Mexico. And isn't it interesting that the Roswell incident happened right, hop, skip, and a jump, galactically speaking, next to the Trinity test site.
Right, and that's what the theory is they came down to investigate that, because that was quite alarming that we now had nukes when we were doing this testing.
And all theories aside, the fact of the matter is nuclear experimentation kills, and our DNA and RNA cannot tell the difference between exposure from peaceful use of or militaristic use of. And so it literally, to the netherworld oligarchy, well, forget about the 1%. We're actually, they're like the some odd 0.1% that are benefiting from this, because the use of this stuff is going to cost all life forever, potentially.
Right. So extinction is it seems inevitable in the scenario that you've painted so far. Is there any way to forestall extinction?
Well, someone asked me the other day, how's Fukushima going? Because I've been paying attention to it and writing a lot about it even. And one of the things I ended up saying was, well, they're still there. So it's going actually really good. And the scary thing about Japan and Fukushima, it's actually Fukushima 1. Those 6 reactors are known as Fukushima 1. There's Fukushima 2 right nearby. I forget the number of reactors of Fukushima 2. But there's also a number of reactors in northern Japan beyond Fukushima 1 and 2. But if they, God forbid, have to leave abandoned site of Fukushima 1, that's 6 reactors and 6 fuel pools and a common fuel pool that literally could go volcano. And what that would mean is evacuation of northern Japan. Literally, it just wouldn't be survivable. No hero could go there and do anything about it.
Great.
And so that means a 6-reactor, spent fuel pool, common pool, meltdown reactor, plus the domino effect of those other reactors and all their constituents.
It wouldn't make sense even for the 1%. They must not be human. They must have another standard of life. And so they wipe out all of this kind of life, but maybe this primary estate can be used for some other kind of life that they will introduce or create or feed or whatever.
Kishi was saying that there's some kind of antidote that you can use the energy and some kind of plasmic reaction and actually utilize rather than die from it. And then he disappeared off the scene.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it is one of the lessons in Buddhism is impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. And I think that the pro-nuke folks really need a lesson in impermanence, and actually that's physics 101 too. So the potential of it becoming more catastrophic is there, and I ended up laughing and saying it's going really good because I didn't want to cry, and so I really call all people of the world to stand up against nuclear experimentation, for it is the epitome of fascism in the crisscrossing of corporate and state, military, individual repression. And actually in Taiwan, they were planning on building what would have been a 4th reactor there, and there was so much protest that they decided to cancel it. And so the power of people joining together and demanding action is still very viable, and we all need to come together to stand up for our very biology in this case.
So if they were to break down all these nuclear facilities and, say our protesters protested and they decided to stop all this, could they? What would that involve? Do you have any idea?
What do you mean?
Stop all these nuclear facilities. Shut them all down.
Oh, well, no, you can't.
Can't shut them down.
One scientist before Chernobyl, which actually in part caused the collapse of the Soviet Union, let's not forget. Before Chernobyl, a writer postulated that nuclear power plants were revolution killers because you cannot just change over or stop a nuclear power plant. Every nuclear power plant needs externally sourced electrical energy 24/7 for, like I said, the next, let's say, 10,000 years or until they move the spent fuel.
Oh, man, we're all due.
And
so there's just no way out of this unless it's some kind of technology.
We've got to take political action. We've got to come together, and all this can be wrapped up. Everyone can agree with nuclear experimentation must be ceased. The design capacity for the spent fuel pools in the United States were changed from X spent fuel rods to 3 times that, because there is nowhere to put the junk. So every nuclear power plant in the United States has a spent fuel pool of decades worth of spent fuel. Even the WIPP, the waste isolation pilot for experiment, right? Experiment. Don't let them get it twisted. It's a nuclear experiment. It is now, looks like it'll be unsalvageable, and God forbid it won't hopefully explode again. But what they said would never happen happened, and what they said could never happen for 10,000 years happened yesterday. And so we're in year 69 of the nuclear experiment, and every segment of the nuclear fuel cycle has been a failure. is proven a failure every step of the way.
Yeah.
The
so what
first,
are the problems? The people that are running the cleanup and running these plants, the Foxes taking care of the hen house. This is a survival of problem for everybody on this planet, and it's not these private companies that are covering their ass and trying to make more money.
Yeah, it's instilled apathy, because what would our, I call them the original patriots, but what would our founding fathers do if they knew the nuclear experiment? I mean, these people threw the tea in the ocean when it was too high of a tax. What would they do if their water for their cattle was polluted? Well, I don't know, but definitely something. And the nuclear experimentation industry has been adept at changing, misleading, and lying about information. And even, we only found out because of the first meltdown in the United States at 3 Mile Island. We only found, what we thought was the first meltdown. We only found out about Santa Susana Laboratories had meltdowns and all kinds of nuclear cowboy activity going on. And so the first meltdown was actually in Southern California, beautiful Southern California. They
covered up. Wow.
Covered up completely. Because of what Orwell termed oligarchical collectivism, or what you could just say oligarchy or just fascism, right? These institutions joined together what was then Rocketdyne and the U.S. government and several other companies that were, into rockets and space exploration, and thought they were going to send a nuclear-powered, vehicle into space, right? So, it was meltdown after meltdown, and literally the movie, I think it's Pandora's Promise. Well, Pandora's Promise is one of eternal hellfire, and so this is a pro-nuclear movie, and these guys. This is how stupid pro-nuclear people are. They don't even know what an allegory is, because Pandora's Promise was that once you open this, you can never close it, and it will burn eternal hellfire. And that's
so we're in hell.
That's exactly what the nuclear industry is doing, and so they're so stupid they don't even understand allegory. Well, and they also don't even understand basic chemistry, because the failures that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, WIPP, for instance, are due to basic lacking understanding of chemistry. These are the people we are putting our faith in with the ultimate destiny of humanity, right? Because it is the only thing that could kill everything.
Is there any options in your research? Are you finding anything that's outside of the box?
The nuclear power plant in Southern California, San Onofre, it was originally shut down because here's another how stupid nuclear engineers are. They put the thing in, the reactor in backwards, and it never fit right and worked right, and even after they fixed it. So the wear on tear on systems of the reactor would be, X-fold, 20-fold times what they should have been. And so, but only on individuals taking action did it finally demand that it was shut down. And so Diablo is the only running nuclear power plant in California right now. And there was just some research done, take it as you want it, anecdotal, however, but the cancer rate in the zip code is X of this nuclear power plant, Diablo, is X amount higher than the rest of the county, and the rest of the county is X amount higher than the rest of California. So I don't know what it is. It could be many other things, but the cancer rate in San Luis Obispo County and Diablo zip code are both exponentially higher than elsewhere in California.
this is stupid. This is shitting in our well. We got to stop it, obviously.
This is, I think, the one thing we can all come together on, you know, and the only people that have ever argued pro-nuclear that I've experienced have been people that are misinformed, or they're outright living in the past where they saw the bomb saved World War II.
Right.
And so there's a zealous, jingoistic mindset. You tell them all they want, all you want, but they're living in a different world, you know. Wow.
Well, that generation is soon gone, so we've got a new generation, and so we just got to get this information
you know
out
what?
there.
One of the sad things is that literally even Harry Reid, but all of these institutionalized politicians, they all have touted this nonsense that, you know, literally there's this movie, Atomic States of America, and Harry Reid is asked, well, what are we going to do with all the spent fuel? And he says something like, well, I take pride in American ingenuity, and I know that our grandchildren are going to invent something. This is their logic. Have you seen his grandchildren? They're beetle bopping on iPhones. They're not. No one wants to deal with nuclear waste. Who wants to deal with that? No one goes up and I want to.
Forrest said the same thing. We'll all be dead. It's not our problem.
Right.
Armageddon's coming. We ain't gonna be around. We're gonna be up there dancing with God.
Yeah.
Well, even if the masses of humanity died off from the radiation, it's still going to keep going, so it kills all the species of the planet. Right?
Oh yeah, we're all going, or at least everything as we know it. Everything as we know it, definitely, and potentially it could be an ocean killer, atmospheric killer. So it might be a planet killer, really.
Well, you know, there's something, I don't know what it is, but my research says that after the radiation of Mesopotamia from the fallout from the bombing of Sinai, Enki, the chief scientist of the Anunnaki, and his son Marduk cleansed the soils around Basra, his estate, and Babylon, so that people could live there again, that there's something that can be done. I don't know what it is.
Maybe there is, you know. Well, there's all these nefarious instances of the great culling, right, that these Illuminati buckets talk about.
Right.
So what would be the most efficient way? Well, it would definitely be nuclear. You know, the nuclear experiment is really, unless they do have a pill, the most psychotic endeavor to everyone. It's a total
suicide,
even planet killer potentially.
It is,
right.
Yes.
And so that's
we're
why
almost out
I
of
talk
time
about.
Here.
Sorry?
Go ahead. I just wanted to give you a heads up. We're running out of time here, so.
Well, yeah, I was going to say wrap it up. The terrorist letters. I always talk about be a terrorist. Don't be like listening to these terrorists and inspired about, you know, nuclear experimentation and war. Be a terrorist and demand that we take action against all this stuff.
Well, thank you, Ethan INDIGO Smith. Thank you, listeners.
Yeah, peace. Thank you.
Much love, aloha, blessings. Bye, Senpai Big E.